The morning on Oak Island was quiet, the kind of silence that hides something beneath it. The air carried a soft mist, and the sound of waves breaking on the rocky shore echoed faintly in the distance. Lagina and his crew were already at the excavation site. They had been working for weeks, following ground-penetrating scans that hinted at something buried deep beneath the earth. None of them could imagine that this day would change everything they thought they knew about the island's mystery. As the dig began, Dr. Spooner carefully studied the radar monitor. The lines on the screen were unlike anything he had seen before, circular waves glowing brighter each second. Rick leaned over his shoulder and asked quietly, "Is that solid metal?" Spooner nodded, slowly. "Yes, and it's huge." Emma Culligan, who was monitoring the geological sensors, frowned and said, "Sir, the readings are unstable. Something down there is reacting to the scan." Her words sent a ripple of tension through the crew. Machines were switched to low speed. Everyone moved carefully, aware that they were close to something extraordinary. After hours of digging, the sound of metal striking metal rang through the air. The operator froze. Rick stepped forward and brushed away the soil with his hands. Beneath the earth, a dull iron surface shimmered through the dirt. As more soil was removed, the shape became clear. A vault. An enormous iron vault, sealed tight and covered in layers of rust. Strange carvings ran along its surface. Circles, crosses, and serpent-like curves that seemed to twist under the flashlight's glow. The smell of damp clay and iron filled the pit. Dr. Spooner whispered, "It looks medieval, maybe even older." Rick crouched beside the vault and ran his hand over the carvings. "These symbols," he said softly, "they don't look random. Someone wanted this to stay hidden." The team surrounded the vault in silence. For a moment no one moved. The air felt heavier, colder. Then Emma pointed to a line of letters half erased by rust. Spooner cleaned it gently with a brush and read aloud, "Custodiere veritatem," protect the truth. The words hung in the air like a warning. They decided to record everything carefully. Cameras rolled from every angle. Rick ordered that all heavy machinery be shut off to avoid damage. The crew began clearing the soil by hand. Every layer they removed seemed to make the atmosphere stranger. A faint metallic smell grew stronger, mixed with something old, like burned oil or stone dust. Emma's sensor beeped erratically. "There's a magnetic field here," she said. Spooner tested it with his compass. The needle spun wildly. Rick looked at him and said, "This isn't just iron, is it?" Spooner replied, "No. It's reacting like it's alive." As the vault's edges became clear, they noticed more engravings, triangles, star-like marks, and at the center, a serpent biting its tail, forming an infinity loop. Emma gasped. "That's a Phoenician symbol. What's it doing here?" Rick's eyes widened. "If you're right, this could change everything we know about Oak Island's history." The vault was far larger than any chamber they had ever uncovered. It extended deep into the ground, suggesting a structure built with precision and purpose. Finally, Rick gave the order to open it. The crew fastened ropes to the heavy iron handle. Everyone stood back as Marty and two others began to pull. The handle groaned and resisted, the sound of ancient hinges echoing through the pit. Dust rose in clouds, and a low creaking noise spread like thunder underground. Then, with one last pull, the vault's door moved slightly. A cold blast of air burst out, chilling everyone instantly. The smell was sharp, metallic, and strange, as if something had been trapped for centuries. Rick stepped forward with his flashlight. A faint blue glow shimmered from within. For a moment the camera feed flickered, static lines ran across the monitor. Emma's voice shook. "Camera feed unstable." Rick ignored it and kept moving. The door opened wider,
revealing stone walls carved with the same symbols seen outside. The air grew heavy, even breathing felt harder. Dr. Spooner said quietly, "It's like walking into history itself." The crew entered slowly. Inside the vault, small platforms rose from the floor, each holding objects covered in dust. As they brushed away the dirt, the objects revealed themselves: golden statues, silver coins, and smooth stones that shimmered faintly under the flashlight. Hundreds of artifacts filled the chamber. Dr. Spooner stared in disbelief. "Everything's intact. It's like someone preserved them on purpose." Rick nodded. "Or protected them." Emma zoomed the camera in on the largest platform. In the center rested a small orb, emitting a faint blue light, glowing softly like a living thing. Rick whispered, "Is this an energy source?" Dr. Spooner tried to scan it, but his device stopped working instantly. "It just died," he said, tapping the screen. Emma took a few photos, but the flash reflected oddly, bending the light. The crew stood speechless. Then Rick noticed a small wooden box, separate from the other relics. The words carved on it were faded, but still visible. "Do not awaken." Emma whispered, "That's a warning." Rick stared at the box for a long moment. "Or an invitation to truth?" he said quietly. He opened it slowly. A cool breeze escaped as the lid lifted. Inside lay a triangular crystal, transparent yet glowing faintly from within. Beneath it was a burnt manuscript written in symbols no one could recognize. Spooner examined the paper carefully. "This isn't Latin. It's older, maybe pre-Roman." Rick lifted the crystal and held it against the light. Instantly, beams of blue light shot across the walls, tracing the carvings and forming patterns that moved like living code. Everyone stepped back in shock. The lights danced for a few seconds, then faded away. Emma whispered, "It's responding to something." Marty said softly, "Or someone." Rick placed the crystal back into the box, his hands trembling. "Whatever this is," he said, "it's more than treasure." Then the camera flickered again, showing static before returning to normal. Dr. Spooner frowned. "There's interference. Electromagnetic, maybe?" The vault hummed faintly, a metallic vibration rising from beneath their feet. Rick looked around, listening. "It's alive," he murmured. The sound stopped as suddenly as it began. Hours passed as they catalogued each artifact. Among them were discs engraved with unknown symbols, rods,
Silver, and a small statue resembling a falcon-headed figure. Dr. Spooner examined it and whispered, "Egyptian. That's the god Ra." Emma turned another object over and saw a Templar cross carved into the metal. "Templar again," she said. The team exchanged confused glances. How could Egyptian and Templar artifacts exist side by side in a single vault beneath Nova Scotia? Rick said quietly, "Maybe this place connects every forgotten part of history." By evening, more experts arrived. Dr. Ellison, Professor Hargrave, and Dr. Raj Patel. They examined each artifact carefully, their expressions shifting from curiosity to disbelief. "This is impossible," Dr. Patel said. "These cultures never met, yet here their symbols are side by side." Professor Hargrave traced a carving on the wall and said, "This combination suggests a secret order that linked them, maybe a guardian society that moved relics across time." Rick listened silently, his eyes fixed on the glowing orb in the center of the room. "Guardian," he whispered, "that word again." Late that night, something strange began to happen. The air temperature dropped suddenly. The instruments recorded a fall of 5 degrees within seconds. A faint mist rolled across the floor of the vault. Emma shivered. "It's freezing in here."
Then, without warning, one of the metallic discs began to glow with the same blue light as the orb. Dr. Spooner pointed. "It's reacting!" The glow grew brighter, and the carvings on the walls began to shimmer faintly. A low hum filled the chamber, vibrating through their feet. The camera image glitched again, static crackling across the screen. Rick called out, "Everyone step back!" The humming stopped. Silence returned, but a faint echo, like a whisper, lingered in the air. Marty turned toward the darkness and said, "Did anyone hear that?" No one replied. The only sound was their own breathing. Rick exhaled slowly. "Maybe we woke up more than we found." Emma whispered, "Maybe this vault isn't just a chamber. Maybe it's a warning." The camera zoomed in on Rick's face. Fear and determination mixed in his eyes. "Then we need to understand it," he said. "We can't turn back now." As the night deepened, the vault seemed to change. The faint blue light pulsed like a heartbeat. The air grew still, thick, and charged. Outside, the wind howled across the island, carrying the sound of the sea through the trees. Inside, the team stood among relics of unknown origin, unsure whether they were uncovering history or disturbing something sacred. Rick finally said, "We end here for tonight." They sealed the vault temporarily and climbed out into the cold night air. The next morning, Rick called for additional security and scientific support. By noon, convoys of vehicles arrived, historians, archaeologists, and technicians. But with them came others, men in uniforms, carrying official badges. Without introduction, they took control of the site. One officer stepped forward. "Mr. Lagina, stop work immediately. The area is under federal investigation." Rick protested. "You can't just take over. This is our find." The officer replied coldly, "This is now a matter of national security." No explanation followed. Within hours, fences were erected, and signs reading, "Restricted Zone, No Entry," were posted everywhere. That night, Rick sat in his cabin staring at his laptop. On the screen were secret clips he had recorded from inside the vault, images of the glowing orb and the manuscript. He knew he couldn't let this discovery vanish into secrecy. He copied the files to a backup drive and wrote a short message to a trusted friend, a documentary filmmaker. "If anything happens to me, release this footage. The world must know the truth." Then he turned on his camera and began recording himself. "What we found isn't treasure," he said quietly. "It's a warning. We thought we were chasing history, but now I think history was protecting itself. That vault, it breathes. The orb is still alive. The government says it's security, but I believe it's something deeper, something not meant for us." His eyes looked tired, filled with both fear and conviction. "If you ever see this, know that we opened something that was never meant to be opened." He switched off the camera. Outside, the wind roared across Oak Island like a restless spirit. The night after the vault sealed itself, Oak Island was quieter than ever. The waves crashed softly against the shore, but there was an uneasy calm in the air, as if the island itself was holding its breath. Rick Lagina couldn't sleep. The image of that glowing blue light inside the vault kept replaying in his mind. He had seen many strange things during his years of searching on Oak Island, but this was different. This time, it didn't feel like just another discovery. It felt alive. At dawn, Rick returned to the site with Dr. Spooner and Emma. The security team had already set up barriers around the vault. No one was allowed near it without government clearance. Rick tried to speak to one of the officers, but the man only said, "Orders from above, sir. No entry." Rick's frustration grew. He looked through the fence at the sealed vault. The faint blue light that had been visible the night before was gone, but the air still seemed to shimmer faintly above the ground. Dr. Spooner held a thermal scanner toward the area. "Still warm," he said softly.
That vault's giving off energy even though it's made of cold iron. That's impossible. Emma checked her monitor, but all readings were flat. The instruments don't work near it, she said. It's like something inside the vault blocks our signals. Rick didn't respond. He was staring at the engraved symbols on the vault door, triangles, snakes, and the half-erased Latin words, Custodier Veritatem, protect the truth. By mid-morning, a black helicopter arrived at the site. A group of scientists and military officers stepped out. Rick recognized none of them. They didn't speak much, only exchange documents and set up scanning devices around the vault. One of them, a man in a gray coat, approached Rick and said, "Mr. Lagina, thank you for your work here. The government will handle it from now on." His tone was calm but final. Rick tried to reason with him. "This isn't just about ownership," he said. "We need to understand what this vault really is. It could change everything we know about history." The man only replied, "And that's exactly why it's not safe for the public." Then he walked away. Rick watched as they covered the vault with a large black tarp and began installing sensors. He felt powerless. For years he had dreamed of solving the mystery of Oak Island. Now, when he was finally close to the truth, it was being taken away. That night, the team gathered at Rick's cabin. The air was tense. Emma spoke first. "Rick, we can't just walk away. You saw what happened last night. The vault moved on its own. Something is happening under that island." Dr. Spooner nodded. "There's an energy source inside that vault. Something ancient. Something beyond science." Rick looked at the small laptop on his table. He opened the hidden folder marked Vault Night Footage. The dim glow from the laptop screen lit up the room. On the screen appeared a clip, the vault opening, the glowing orb, and the faint humming sound. Then a strange shadow passed across the camera for just 1 second. "There," Rick said, pausing the video. "You see that?" Emma leaned closer. "That's not dust or light. That's something moving." Dr. Spooner said quietly, "If that's the Guardian mentioned in the manuscript, then maybe the vault wasn't meant to be opened." Rick sat back, rubbing his temples. Whatever it was, it didn't want to stay hidden anymore. The next morning, news spread fast. A rumor began online that Rick's team had found something on Oak Island so powerful that the government had shut the site down. No official statement was made, but satellite photos showed large tents and military trucks near the area. Some said it was a new archaeological site. Others said it was something far bigger, something they didn't want the world to see. Rick received dozens of messages from journalists, historians, and even old treasure hunters asking what had happened. But he stayed silent. He knew if he said too much, they would take everything. Still, inside him, the truth burned like fire. He couldn't let it disappear into secrecy. That evening, Rick met Marty near the shore. The sun was setting, and the orange light reflected off the calm water. Marty said, "Rick, I've known you a long time. You look like a man carrying a storm inside." Rick smiled faintly. "Marty, we found something that changes everything. That vault, it's not just a box of artifacts. It's a door. And I don't think we were supposed to open it." Marty frowned. "A door to what?" Rick looked out at the ocean. "To something old, something powerful. Maybe a civilization that understood energy in ways we can't imagine." Marty shook his head. "And now the government has it?" Rick nodded, but not all of it. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small metallic disc, one of the artifacts they had managed to take before the site was seized. It was engraved with strange, glowing symbols that seemed to pulse faintly even in the fading light. Marty's eyes widened. "You kept that?" Rick said quietly, "I had to. This may be the only proof that we weren't imagining everything." That night, back in the cabin, Rick studied the disc under a magnifying glass.
Every time he turned it, faint lines of blue light appeared along its edges, like circuits glowing to life. He whispered, "You're trying to tell me something, aren't you?" Suddenly, the lights flickered. The disc emitted a low humming sound. The laptop screen turned white, and strange patterns appeared across it, the same symbol